It's Champions League round of 16, and here we are again. Time to start the show, everyone. Yes, people, welcome once again to the Coach's Corner, and you are in the company of yours truly, Manny Thangadurai. We should possibly be having Hanno maybe for a few minutes. I don't know if he'll be able to do this. He has kindly asked me to once again fill in for him, and here I am. Wasn't planning on doing any streams tonight, but duty calls. And so in about 10 minutes from now, we will, of course, be having kickoff from the Etihad Stadium, and I will... Yep, this is the banner. Manchester City versus Red Bull Leipzig, live from the Etihad Stadium in Manchester. Both teams having drawn 1-1 in Leipzig earlier on, with City not making a single substitution. And so Guardiola does seem to have a full squad from which he can choose. But once again, some pretty interesting selections, and we will get to that in just a minute. And of course... I will be more than happy to provide you the team news courtesy of our dear friends at BBC Sport. I mean, I wouldn't call them friends per se. We know what they're all about. And of course, a lot of you will have heard of the Gary Lineker controversy. Thankfully, it's been resolved and Lineker will be back presenting Match of the Day. And I know Lineker was a Tottenham star, but for me, he's always an England legend first and foremost. For me, it's country over club. So he was terrific for us. Absolute legend of a striker, but for taking the stand that he's taken, sir, I know you're not watching this, but you're an absolute hero. It's like Malcolm X said, you either stand for something or you die for nothing. Anyway, without further ado, let's get to the team news. And interestingly enough, Manchester City have opted for a 4-3-3 formation, so Guardiola has decided that he can't keep playing a back three because he doesn't have two wing backs of note. So he's got John Stones at right back and Nathan Ake at left back, with Ruben Diaz and Manuel Akanji in the centre of defence. And it will be Ilkay Gundogan on the left, Rodri in the middle, and Kevin De Bruyne on the right of that three-man midfield, with, interestingly enough, Bernardo Silva starting up front on the right alongside Erling Haaland and Jackie Grealish. So Phil Foden is on the bench, among others. And the bench also includes more than a few people who would normally start in a game like this. Riyad Mahrez, Julian Alvarez, Emerick Laporte is back on the bench. Kyle Walker's on the bench. And certainly the controversy recently surrounding Walker has not done him or the club any favours. But Guardiola has said that it will be dealt with. It's more of a personal issue. Walker seems to be a bit of a strange case. And I'm not just saying this because he was an ex-Tottenham player. But... he just can't seem to learn to keep himself out of the news. And the youngsters, Cole Palmer and Rico Lewis, are also on the bench along with Phil Foden and company. And so Leipzig line up like this. Obviously, Benjamin Heinrichs has come into the team, and he was a substitute, of course, in the first leg in Leipzig and came on and added a lot of dynamism to the attack. They've opted for a 4-2-3-1 formation with Yanis Blažević in goal, although that could possibly transition into a 4-3-3 now. But it is Willy Orban and Josko Gvardiol in the centre of defence, and David Raum on the left, playing at left back. And then Konrad Laimer, Kevin Campbell comes into the team, as does Amadou Haidara. And up front, it will be Dominik Szoboszlai playing with his countryman Orban in the team. Their other countryman, Gulakshi, is still out injured with that long-term injury. Timo Werner, of course, who many will remember from his days at Chelsea, and Emil Forsberg will complete that lineup. On the bench, we do actually see a couple of players like Marcel Halstenberg and Lucas Klosterman, who started the first leg, and Yusuf Poulsen also came on as a substitute. And then Mohamed Simakan and Danny Olmo also on the bench, and we see the teams in the tunnel right now. Andre Silva also played a role in that first leg, and then this completes the bench. So basically what we have over here is two teams who are competing right now for their Champions League future. This is not a stage at which any team wants to exit a competition. And of course, tomorrow's clash between Real Madrid and Liverpool at the Santiago Bernabeu will be one for the ages. Liverpool have got a seemingly new lease of life, but will that be enough to get the result they need at the Bernabeu and torch Real Madrid by 4 goals? I'll tell you one thing, if they were able to go through at Real Madrid's expense, Senior Ancelotti will almost certainly be out of a job. And we've got some people in the stands, conversation right here. Come on, a new subscriber. Thanks a lot for coming on. I mean, maybe not a subscriber per se. If you do like this broadcast, subscribe, like, and click the bell button for notifications. You can also follow this channel on both Instagram and Twitter. And of course, it is back to the banners right now. And we won't be too long away from the first half kicking off at the Etihad. Both teams are now walking into the center of the field. We have the customary pre-match rituals of the team standing and hearing the glorious Champions League anthem, Zodek the Priest. Leipzig are in all black with tinges of red. And they'll be hoping to get some wings tonight without having to drink their Red Bull. And no shortage of Germans in the Manchester City team, most notably Gundogan, who is captaining the team tonight. And Erling Haaland, of course, has been the star of his team this season, but a lot of the players have certainly been able to work some magic around him, and some wonderful cordialities between the two managers, Rosa and Guardiola. Guardiola dressed in all black. I wonder if that's some sort of an omen. I can't be too sure. And we have the handshakes, of course, between the players. And now we're going to talk about the team and their formation. So as I've mentioned, it will be a back four with Nathan Ake at left back and John Stones at right back. And it looks as though they could be starting with a 4-1-4-1 formation with Rodrigo acting as a sweeper. Grealish, Gundogan, De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva will all be forming the attacking four-man midfield behind Erling Haaland. Of course, this can easily transition back into the 4-3-3 with Gundogan and De Bruyne dropping back and Bernardo and Grealish coming forward. Slavko Vincic from Slovenia is the referee, with assistant referees Klančnik and I missed the other name. And we see the captains, Gundogan and Orban, coming up. And I think from the lip language, lip reading or whatever, I think Leipzig have chosen one particular half of the field, and that will be the right side of the field. And this is the Leipzig lineup. They are starting, and looks as though it's going to be a Christmas tree formation with Timo Werner as the lone striker, Forsberg and Szoboszlai behind him as attacking midfielders, a three-man midfield of Haidara, Campbell and Lehmer behind, and the back four of Raum, Guardiola, Orban and Heinrich in front of Blažević, the goalkeeper. Countdown right now. And there is Guardiola, who's not playing with his mask tonight. No mask of Josko for him. Looks as though he's recovered from whatever facial injury he's had. And this is going to be very key for them indeed. Kickoff now just underway. It will be City to kick off, and they will be attacking from left to right. So Yeah, Kevin Campbell has come in for Andre Silva as the lone change from that team which played in the Bundesliga, but obviously Campbell is now coming in. And they've just kicked off, and within the first 15 seconds, it's a Leipzig goal kick with the ball being sent back into the Leipzig half by Edison and somehow finding its way out. So it is Janis Blažević in neon green who will be sort of passes it out to his defender who sends it forward. It is Szoboszlai who is able to try and play it forward. And it is now with Campbell who's come into the team. It is back with Campbell. That is Gvardiol now who's trying to play it out forward, but only finds John Stones who passes it back calmly to Edison Moraes. And Timo Werner's giving some chase, but Edison mops up quite nicely. Clearance is not so good, though. It only finds a Leipzig midfielder, but the subsequent attempt at creating an attack comes to nothing, and it is back with Edison, who rolls it out to Manuel Akanji. Back to Edison. A short pass to Stones, who was very nearly under attack, but in the end dealt with that well enough. Akanji slipped as he passed it back, but no harm, no foul. Forsberg deep in the penalty area, trying to be a bit of a nuisance. Akanji heading it to Stones. Back to Akanji now, who tries to play that forward and ends up, well, he doesn't quite win a throw-in, but was kept in play. It is back with Leipzig now. But City are able to win it back, taking advantage of some pretty poor footwork. And a clumsy challenge there from Szoboszlai on Bernardo Silva, and that will be a City free kick with 2 minutes just gone. Guardiola animated in the just outside the tactical area. And Arsenal fans, I think now you know where Mikel Arteta gets it from. Rodri. Gundogan, the captain. Back to Rodri, who's in the middle, and he can certainly play it out to the right, and he finds Bernardo Silva on the right, sends it forward to Kevin De Bruyne. A nice cross into the penalty area, and, well, Gundogan certainly got on the end of that, but ended up sending that skyward. Excellent move by City, beautiful football, and Bernardo Silva checked his run quite well, and I would say that De Bruyne was just onside. Peach of a cross in, and there's a reason now why Ilkay Gundogan is not a striker. No, son. Too high and not at all handsome. Now the ball is with Leipzig, and they're going to try and play it forward. And it's inexplicably given away by Timo Werner to John Stones, who feeds Bernardo Silva, twisting his way in and twisting Campbell all ways to Sunday. He's in the penalty area now, still trying to weave his magic. And he wins the first corner of the game off the left back, David Raum. So immediately, City are showing a lot of intent. It will be Kevin De Bruyne to take this first corner. Should be a right-footed away swinger, hoping to find the head of a certain Erling Haaland. Into the penalty area, and that is headed down towards goal, but cleared away. It is back with Bernardo Silva, but and he does pass it to Nathan Ake. Ake finds De Bruyne. A rather unique pass by De Bruyne, hoping to find a teammate, but to no avail, sadly. And Leipzig can break. And City can block that. It is back with Leipzig, though, and they're going to have to build from the back once again. Orban, the Leipzig captain, passes it to his central defensive partner, Gvardiol. And he passes it back to Blažević, who gives it back to Gvardiol. And some interplay there between Gvardiol and Szoboszlai. And then back to Blažević again. And yeah, you can see right now that Leipzig are just content to try and keep the ball amongst themselves and not really, have too much of a fuss, if you will. Nathan Ake. Ruben Diaz. Back to Edison. Gets it to Akanji, who, of course, was with Borussia Dortmund in the Bundesliga, as was Erling Haaland, although neither of them were teammates. And now it's back with Gvardiol after some impressive work by the Leipzig midfield. Orban passes it back to Blažević. And certainly the thing about Josko Gvardiol is that the way he performed for Croatia in that World Cup, he was able to keep the more experienced Domagoj Vida out of the team. Of course, he did have a bit of a nightmare in the semi-final against Argentina when Lionel Messi twisted him all the way to Sunday. And that was a bit of a nightmare phase of play for Leipzig, where a wayward pass wasn't received. And it is a Manchester City throw deep in the Leipzig half to be taken by what looks like Jackie Grealish. And another throw. Grealish certainly has found his footing in the City team of late. And it's a throw which finds Haaland in the penalty area. Back to Grealish. Ake with the pass in. It is in the penalty area, but nobody able to receive that cleanly. And some good goal mouth action, but obviously in the first 6 or so minutes, neither goalkeeper has been really troubled that much. Ederson passes it to Rodri. De Bruyne. Raum was bearing down on him there. Akanji passes it back to Ederson. Finds Ake on the left. He heads it back in. Ruben Diaz to Stones to Ake. Finds Rodri. Finds Stones. Akanji now. Rodri. Akanji. Akanji tries to send it forward. Can Haaland get on the end of that? Well, it's on the side of Willy Orban there, and he's able to shepherd it and tidy up and pass it to Blažević, to Gvardiol, to Orban. Still in the penalty area, though, but not for long. Diaz. Akanji. Diaz. Ake. Pretty poor pass there from Ake. Ends up going straight to Campbell. Gvardiol. Kevin Campbell. Certainly not to be confused with the former Arsenal, Nottingham Forest and Everton and West Brom striker Kevin Campbell. This is with a P, not a PB. Ruben Diaz. Nathan Ake. And that is Grealish with that. And that would be a long pass back all the way to Ederson. Akanji now. Rodri. Akanji. Diaz. Gundogan. Rodri. Still running with it, trying to sort of back away from the Leipzig midfielders and forwards. It's actually Werner and Forsberg who were trying to create a bit of a nuisance, but John Stones has come forward. He finds Gundogan, and City are able to play their way, for the most part, out of trouble. It is Rodri now. Stones. Diaz. Stones again. Sends it out to his England teammate Jack Grealish on the left. And it's Grealish to Gundogan. And a little bit of an activity there. One of the Leipzig players has lost his shoe. Well, he didn't lose his shoe, thankfully. He lost his glove there. But we're going to take a look at that passage of play right now. Obviously, Grealish with the ball on the left. Up against Heinrich over there and sort of clattering into him afterwards. Heinrich's claiming a foul, but the referee not interested. And thankfully, he didn't lose his shoe either. And there is Marco Rose. A Rose, by any other name, would do a pretty good job as a coach with this team. And I'm sure in German it would be Rose. Whatever. Stones. Rodri. Ruben Diaz. Grealish. Finds Ruben Diaz, who's come all the way deep. And it is now with Gundogan, Stones. Not quite the total football of the great Dutch era, but it is rather interesting to see Ruben Diaz and John Stones coming all the way in. Of course, Akanji has opted to stay back a bit, but there is a lot of fluidity in these in this formation among the players. Good to see. Nathan Ake sending it forward. Haaland getting on the end of that, and well, good intervention there from Blažević, and I don't think the linesman has raised his flag, and so play can continue. But what a brilliant pass and what a brilliant passage of play there. Haaland running onto that and getting that pass well, but unable to stick it between Blažević's legs. And play will stop right now. And once again, Leipzig goalkeeper who came on for Gulakshi in the Champions League against Celtic, proving why he is still Leipzig's number one. Running onto that brilliant pass indeed, but Haaland obviously had an idea to try to thread it through the keeper's legs, but just couldn't get it. Muscled off Josko Gvardiol magnificently, but in the end, just couldn't quite get the desired result. And Blažević once again coming off trumps, made a couple of really important saves as well in the home leg at the Red Bull Arena. Orban, and that's a pretty poor ball from Orban. Finds Gundogan, Haaland, and then Grealish, which has been intercepted. And now I'm going to stop that. Gundogan now. Akanji, Rodri, Nathan Ake is back with Ruben Diaz. Ake again. And some aggressive work from Benjamin Heinrichs, but a little bit too aggressive in the eyes of the referee. And that will be... I don't think it's going to be a free kick, though. It might be just a throw-in. We'll take a look and see. Either way, it's back with Akanji in the Manchester City half. He finds De Bruyne. Bernardo Silva can now set De Bruyne off on a run, and De Bruyne keeps it in play. But he's got two men on him and is able to thread a cross into the penalty area, but a harmless cross in the end, and Blažević claims it. So once again, a lot of running, a lot of enterprise, and some pretty decent midfield play, but no end result in the end. It is still City 0, Leipzig 0, with 13 minutes about to elapse. 12:56 on my clock, but yeah. Akanji, Diaz, Ake, and Grealish was forced into making a bit of a rushed pass back, but it is back with Diaz. And the back four have done a pretty good job in cleaning things up at the moment, because obviously Guardiola senses that the back three would be a little bit risky. The prospect of playing Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne as wing backs would not be very appealing at all. Ake to Diaz. And it's another reminder, you do not send João Cancelo to Bayern Munich. You definitely don't send him if it's going to weaken defense like that. It is Ram now in the penalty area, but the cross come shot ends up going straight to Ederson, who makes a comfortable enough save. Pretty poor passage of play there. It was given away by Diaz, who's normally a bit of a weak link in the City defense. And I was just saying, you can't get rid of an established left back and ask a central defender like Nathan Ake to do a job for you as a left back. And he was part of that centre back three alongside Virgil van Dijk and Jurrien Timber or Matthias de Ligt for Holland in the World Cup, but they had Daley Blind and Denzel Dumfries as the powerful and enterprising wing backs on the left and right respectively. City do not have that, so Guardiola's decided he's got to have a back four any which way. I will say this about Ake. He doesn't really bomb up the field and overlap that much, but he has done a more than decent job of being able to control the ball and send a few crosses in. Certainly wouldn't call him an inverted left back by any means, but here's what it is. Rodri. Akanji. De Bruyne. Back to Akanji. And this is a little bit dangerous from City. If they dawdle too long, they could have the ball snatched away from them. But at the moment, it is Gundogan who finds Grealish on the left. And Grealish, the Grealish-Heinrichs duel has been really good so far. Pass to the penalty area. Grealish, and he wins a corner. Well, some desperate defending there and some really enterprising work by City in the midfield. And the ball clearly deflecting off the Leipzig captain, Willi Orban, over the goal, and that will be a corner. And just confirming that it was indeed a corner, and it should be Kevin De Bruyne to take it again. A right-footed away swinger. Once again, hoping to find the head of a teammate. Into the penalty area. And nobody really on the end of that, and that can be almost acrobatically cleared away, but only as far as Grealish, who passes it back to Nathan Ake in the City half on the left. Manuel Akanji. Ruben Diaz. Back to Akanji. Diaz again. Nathan Ake. Rodri. Hoping to find Bernardo Silva, but some great work from David Raum there to intercept that and keep that in play, only for Kevin De Bruyne to dispossess his fellow number 17 and make sure City have the ball back. Nathan Ake sending it forward to Grealish on the left. Grealish passes it back to Ake. To John Stones in the middle, who sends it out wide on the right to Bernardo Silva. Once again, releasing De Bruyne brilliantly. And a pretty disappointing cross in the end, which was low and well within Blazwicz's reach. And so, once again, it is still City 0, Leipzig 0 with 17.5 minutes gone. Bernardo Silva bearing down on Blazwicz there and ending up winning a corner after Blazwicz, his attempted clearance ended up going all wrong. Trying to pass it to his defender, but his defender wasn't able to stop that from going behind for a corner. So it'll be Grealish to take it, right-footed in-swinger this time from the other side. And will this cause the Leipzig defense any problems? He'll have to try to float it in. It is high, well floated, headed down inside, and still not away. The danger not yet cleared. Appealing for a handball against Haaland, but eventually Campbell clears it away, and it's all happening out there at the Etihad Stadium. An interesting corner that from Grealish, which was high and sort of going long, but headed back in. You could say they sort of prepared for that. They certainly tried that in the training ground because they certainly didn't want to run the risk of the Leipzig defenders getting to the ball first. Akanji, Stones, passes it back to Diaz, who gets it to Ake. And Konrad Lehmer was bearing down on him, but Ake is able to find Gundogan. It is Haaland now on the left. Haaland to Gundogan, trying to pass it forward, but Guardiola will intercept that. And that will be a foul on the Croatian centre-back. And that will be a free kick. So we're going to take a look at the corner here. Obviously high and in. And it was Akanji in the middle who had a chance to shoot for goal, but as with Gundogan, he proved why he was not a striker. But I think the referee's checking now for a penalty for a handball in the area because I'm going to take a look and see if Heinrichs used his hand. And I think the question is, did it actually brush his hand and cause a deviation? Because if it did, it could very well be a penalty for Manchester City. Well, it looks as though the referee has indeed awarded the penalty for a handball by Benjamin Heinrichs. Certainly his hand was not in a very natural position there. Stuck out, asking for trouble. I'm not too sure that touched his arm, to be honest, but clearly the referee saw it differently to me, and Heinrichs has now been booked for his sins. And Heinrichs is claiming he never touched the ball. But the referee says, sorry, Benny boy. VAR saw it. And they believe it did. It is a penalty. And so the big question is who steps up to take this? Riyad Mahrez has taken many of their penalties. He's missed a few as well, notably one in the group stage. So could it be Haaland to take it? Or Grealish, perhaps? It is Haaland who will be standing over it. Alfie Haaland against Janis Blasvic. And Blasvic, of course, receiving instructions not to wander from his line until he's allowed to do so. Starting to rain in Manchester. Haaland against Blasvic, left-footed. And a perfect penalty. Blasvic went the right way, but couldn't stop it from going in. And so it is Manchester City 1, RB Leipzig 0. Erling Haaland with a penalty in the 22nd minute. And Heinrichs is still feeling very hard done by indeed, but still can't really do much about it now. Blasvic moving alongside his line. It was a powerful kick, low and true into the corner. And Blasvic was quite unfortunate because he dived the right way, but just couldn't get there in time. And you can see how much that means to the fans. It's not so much raining as starting to almost snow a little bit in Manchester. And a raised finger. And this is the incident right now with Rodri heading it. Maybe this angle will be a little bit more conclusive. Yeah, I firmly believe that didn't touch his hand at all. It sort of went, sort of past his hand. He did swing at it, which was rather stupid because you don't give that impression. And now, of course, with that new goal, and and just like that, in the blink of an eye, City are 2-0 up, and it's that man again, Erling Haaland. Well, blink and you miss it. Seriously. Are we seeing the charge of Manchester City through to this Champions League quarterfinals? Well, it's fair to say that Leipzig have literally been rocked back on their heels with that penalty, and now Marco Rose, who made some brilliant changes in the second half to frustrate Manchester City and earn a draw, now has a lot of work to do to try to do the same thing again. Willy Orban with a back pass to Janis Blasvic, but Haaland running at him, forcing a poor clearance from Blasvic, knocking it down to Kevin De Bruyne, who had a first-time shot which hit the bar and left Blasvic beaten all ends up. A beautiful shot from De Bruyne, which was worthy of a goal by itself. But in true poacher style, Haaland was there to say, I'll have that, thank you very much. And I suppose Haaland would have deserved that because it was his sort of knockdown header that teed De Bruyne up for that brilliant shot. So he would have had the assist. But once again, it's the Erling Haaland show. Could we see another Champions League hat-trick? At the moment, in the 25th minute, it is Manchester City 2, RB Leipzig 0. And RB Leipzig now need to score twice to take this match to penalties. And just remember, there are no away goals the away goals rule is no longer applicable in the Champions League. So even if RB Leipzig were to score 2 goals, they would not go through automatically. because that would go straight to extra time and then, if need be, penalties. But at the moment, City is still on top, but Leipzig are trying to come back strong. In the end, it's Nathan Ake who cleans things up. But observe the sea of black over there deep in the Manchester City half, including a couple in the penalty area. And Grealish has been dispossessed. It is, well, Werner certainly had the chance to knock it down and try and maybe take a shot himself, but that was not the best first touch. But Leipzig are coming back and coming back strongly. Do not discount this German team. Orban back to Blažević. And so certainly with that searing speed from Haaland rushing at the goalkeeper, he felt as though certainly he felt as though he had no option but to try to clear it any which way. Went straight to Akanji, who was able to find Haaland with the pass. Haaland sort of headed it back down for De Bruyne to sort of carve that first time shot quite beautifully against the bar, and Haaland just wrapped it all up. And so it will remain to be seen how City deal with this, because if City can defend well enough to secure this win, then they will almost certainly have earned their spot in the quarterfinals. But do not count Leipzig out just yet. And offside there. Leipzig a little too eager to try to get back on level terms, get on the score sheet, but City can now start to clear their lines. Rodri, and that was a poor pass from Rodri, hoping to find Nathan Ake, but that went away from him. And now Leipzig have a throw. Could this lead to an attack? Back with Blažević. Gvardiol. Across to Orban. Back to Blažević. Gvardiol now. Again, back to Blažević. Same sequence. Willi Orban. Blažević again. Gvardiol trying to send it over, and he had found Forsberg, and Forsberg was, of course, fouled from behind by Akanji, and that will be a Leipzig free kick. Leipzig now trailing 3-1 on aggregate. If they can score 3 goals, though, unanswered, they will win this tie, but could be insurmountable at this rate. Szoboszlai for Leipzig. Plays it forward to Forsberg, back with Szoboszlai. And some pretty touch football over there, but Forsberg ends up sending that long with a rather heavy first touch. But it was a goal almost entirely created by Haaland, with pressure being applied to the goalkeeper. And then the knockdown assist for that De Bruyne shot off the crossbar. And Haaland end up obliging by heading it in. And you can tell that Haaland is quite motivated to have a very big impact for City in both the Premiership and the Champions League. I mean, in the Premiership, of course, City are 5 points behind my Arsenal team, but City cannot be counted out just yet, and the snow is falling. The weather outside, the weather at the stadium is frightful, but my studio is so delightful. And since I've no place to go, I say let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Not sure the players are too fond of that, though. And so it is Szoboszlai and I think David Ram who are over this free kick on the left side. It is Ram who takes it into the penalty area, and it was Haidara who was on the end of that, but obviously I think he wasn't expecting the ball to come straight to him, Amadou Haidara, and that ended up being a non-shot, which Ederson gathered effectively. But poor stuff there from, I think that was De Bruyne on the left. And thankfully for City, their defence cleans up that mess. Orban now trying to make a nuisance of himself and atone for his part in the goals. And City clear their lines. İlkay Gündoğan. Akanji. Stones, De Bruyne. And that is Bernardo Silva now. Back to De Bruyne. And it is with Rodri. Sending it forward. Grealish now. A nice touch to Haaland. First time shot, but well saved by the goalkeeper. So no hat-trick for Haaland yet. And I think there might have been an infringement in the Leipzig penalty area anyway. So that will be a Leipzig free kick. But yeah, straight at the keeper, really. You'd expect him to make that save. Probably more of a reflex save than otherwise. So more than half an hour gone, 31 minutes gone, in fact. It is City 2, Leipzig 0. And the Germans are now going to have it all to do in the second half, just like they did in the first leg. And at the moment, City are literally snapping at their heels. Grealish now making a nuisance of himself, retrieving the ball and ending up getting fouled by Orban, who's not really having the best game in terms of staying away from foul trouble. A rather lackadaisical attempt to the side or a back heel intercepted by Grealish. Needless challenge from behind. And that will be a City free kick on their left wing. And Grealish is gingerly walking. Could be replaced by Phil Foden later on in the game. And it will be Kevin De Bruyne to take this free kick in a not undangerous position for Leipzig. Quite close to the corner flag and can certainly be whipped into the penalty area. Looking to swing it in with that right foot of his. And Blažević had a little bit of trouble there and eventually had to sort of pour that away for what looks like a corner. And De Bruyne's jogging over to take it. Probably being told to hurry it up a little bit by the linesman, I would imagine. And it's been placed on its spot. Although De Bruyne will want it a few inches further. And it's a short corner to İlkay Gündoğan, who twists Forsberg into the penalty area with Akanji. And that is easily blocked. And it is Szoboszlai right now, the number 17, who runs down the left and tries to set Timo Werner free. And Ederson's come out of his area. And Timo Werner is not happy with that passage of play there. He believes that Ederson should have been penalized for bumping into him. Ederson certainly didn't use his hand there. Some really good play from Szoboszlai like that, coming down the left and setting Timo Werner free. And, well, it certainly did look a little bit like dangerous play there. In fact, it was Konrad Laimer who was impeded by Ederson. Ederson saying he didn't use his hand, but I think there will probably be a free kick awarded. I'm not too sure. And Marco Rosa is also having words with the linesman. In the end, it's a free kick to City, but Leipzig do have reason to feel hard done by. Confirmation of that yellow card for the former Chelsea striker, who's now found a new lease of life back in Germany with Leipzig. And so you can't discount Leipzig because, oh, a dreadful clearance there from Rodri. But fortunately for City, no one was able to capitalize on that. Rodri there completely fluffing his lines. Back in the defense. Attempted a pass back to what looked like Ruben Diaz, but completely getting it all wrong and very nearly punished for it. Intercepted, but no one was on the end to receive that. And Leipzig again can break, and it is with Forsberg now, who, well, it was unfortunate, but he was hoping to find David Raum, but he ended up slipping and falling. But it is back with Leipzig after Kevin Campbell retrieved that. Now, of course, it is back with Blažević, who sends it out. That was a poor kick, that, from Blažević, hoping to find David Raum on the left, but that was a bit too high for him. Pretty unorthodox sequence of play there, and just taking a look at this Szoboszlai pass, which was hoping to find both Werner and Lehmer, and Werner obviously having words with the referee, not liking what was going on. The referee saying, "Don't you snap at me, boy. You weren't the one who was fouled or impeded or whatever." John Stones, Ruben Diaz, Jackie Grealish, and City are being made to work really hard for their play, but it is with Holland now down the left. What speed and strength he has. And Grealish claiming a foul there from Heinrichs, but the referee saying, "Sorry, Jackie, not interested." It is back with Gundogan from Ake, though. And Gundogan once again proving why he is simply not a striker. Just can't seem to get that low enough to get on target. But once again, Grealish making a nuisance of himself. And nearly winning a free kick. And the turf has now become a little bit slippery there. And clearly there was nothing in that. That was the worst case of taking the mickey I've seen. One of the worst. John Stones, Manuel Akanji. And it's once again getting passed back to Ruben Diaz, who will try and take it forward. Sent it to Ake on his left, and Ake can now try and make it forward. Instead, he passes it back to Rodri. To Akanji, still in the City half. Does Akanji send it forward? Yes, he finds De Bruyne, but De Bruyne is in fact fouled, and that will be a City free kick. And David Raum there, not exactly doing his side any favours. Now, it's not too far inside the City half, so it's actually closer to the halfway line. The centre circle, in fact. So it is De Bruyne who takes this short. He finds Gundogan. Saved by the keeper. Well, at least this time he got the shot on target. Excellent work again by De Bruyne and City, catching the Leipzig defence unawares. A free kick that was sent straight through. Gundogan running onto that, getting into the penalty area, taking a first-time shot, getting it on target, but Blažević denying him. The second save that, the third save, in fact, that Blažević has made in the first half. Campbell, not Campbell. Orban. Looking to find a way through, but instead passes it to Gvardiol, who will try to send it forward. Instead, he chips it back to Campbell. David Raum. Gvardiol. And once again, another pass back to Blažević. Headed back in by Stones, but Gvardiol can tidy that up. And some pretty poor play there between Raum and Gvardiol. Sees the ball somehow find its way into the penalty area. Haaland once again making a nuisance of himself, but he's adjudged to have fouled the Leipzig defender, and that will be a free kick to Leipzig. And basically, we're going to take a look at this free kick again, finding the spot beautifully for Gundogan, but his first-time shot not really troubling Blažević that much. Decent save with his right hand. So we will be coming into the last 5 minutes of the first half with Stoppage time also to be determined and added. It is 40 minutes up. It is City 2, Leipzig 0. And obviously, Pep Guardiola will be the happier of the two managers, but there have been some shaky moments for City in the defence, and he will want to try and make sure he hammers home the message that defensively they've got to tighten up. And so I'm going to take a look at the bench and see who could possibly come on. Again, there's Yusuf Poulsen, who could possibly make an appearance off the bench like he did in the first leg. Lucas Klostermann, of course, started that match at left back. He could maybe come on and replace David Raum, who started well enough, but has now gotten into a little bit of foul trouble. Actually, it wasn't Klostermann, it was Holstenberg who started at left back, and Klostermann was the right back, I remember now. Klostermann it was who was replaced by Heinrich. So both the starting fullbacks in the first leg are on the bench right now. And Simakan could come into defense and Dani Olmo in the midfield. Andre Silva is definitely an option for a little bit of midfield or attacking bite. Szoboszlai now. Finding Forsberg, who tried to find Heinrichs but couldn't do so. And it is with Grealish, who gets it to Rodri. Rodri can now run through the middle and finds Bernardo Silva on the right. Bernardo hasn't really done too much in this game, but when he's had the ball, he's looked pretty good. And sadly, that touch, after doing so well to get into the penalty area, just took it too far away from him, and the defense was able to clear that. Akanji, Ruben Diaz. And that is kept in play by Grealish, but eventually finds Rodri back in the City half. Haaland has also come back into the City half. That boy has got so much strength and energy, it is scary. John Stones. Jack Grealish on the left. Once again coming up against Heinrichs, and Amadou Haidara has also come back into the defense for Leipzig. Gundogan passes it back to Diaz. Rodri. Gundogan. And now it's Nathan Ake who's coming up sort of on the left and finds Grealish on the left wing into the penalty area, but not the best of through passes, but intercepted brilliantly by De Bruyne. And Ake now. Grealish passing it back to Rodri. It is with De Bruyne now. Finding Nathan Ake, who could get into the penalty area, but Haaland wasn't able to get on the end of that quite. And once again, a poor pass this time from Heinrichs, but some good defensive work from Haidara, and he eventually finds what looks like Szoboszlai, yes, moving, and Szoboszlai releases Werner. No flag for offside just yet, but in any case, City are able to win the ball back, and there is eventually a flag for offside. So Werner just mistiming himself there. And so the unmistakably bearded Marco Rose will have a lot to say to his team at halftime. Guardiola will understandably be a lot happier, but he knows that in the next 45 minutes, anything can happen. Ake. Ruben Diaz. Back to Edison, who gets it to Akanji. De Bruyne. And it's interesting how Akanji has certainly taken on the responsibilities of staying back in defense and very rarely venturing out. But it is Leipzig on the attack through Raum. Szoboszlai. Campbell. Gvardiol. Back to Orban. And back to Blažević. 30 seconds to go of the 45, and we will find out how much time will be added on for stoppages. And you would assume that there'd be at least 2 minutes. Rodri. Diaz. Ake. Rodri. De Bruyne. Actually, Haaland rather. Gundogan. Haaland in the penalty area. And obviously trying to sort of cut that back in, but nobody was there, and Holland was in any way offside. And there will be 2 minutes exactly of time added on. And you would think that if Holland stays on the field a little bit longer, he will bag his hat trick. I don't think it'll be in these minutes of stoppage time, though. And 61% ball possession to 39 for Leipzig. They've dominated this half, it must be said. Leipzig haven't really had a shot in anger on target to trouble Edison Moraes, but defensively there have been a few shaky and hairy moments. Leipzig, though, have had it probably the worst with some of their passing, and it's not going to get any easier right now with De Bruyne coming up the left and sort of firing a shot into the penalty area. Not really firing it, but sort of passing it into the penalty area, and Gvardiol having to intercept and send that behind for a corner. So could we see one more goal before half-time, a possible sting in the tail? It's Jack Grealish, the number 10, to take it. Right-footed in-swinger. High, floated in. And has that crossed the line? Yes, it has. But that might be disallowed. No, it hasn't. It's been given, and it's a City goal. City are now 3-0 up. And it is Ruben Diaz with a very rare goal. And that really should be the last piece of action for the half. Once again, a brilliantly flighted corner. Grealish. Well, actually, I think it's not going to be credited to Diaz. A great header, which saw the ball hit the post and sort of go along the line, and an attempt to. Well, in fact, that will actually be credited to Haaland. And in true poacher's style, the Norwegian does, in fact, get his hat trick. Nice to see them unselfishly acknowledging each other. I'm not too sure that Haaland would want to give up his hat trick and let Diaz have his moment of glory. But that is, in fact, half-time at the Etihad Stadium with City 3-0 ahead. Champions League hat trick for Erling Haaland, earned in some, you could say, bizarrely fortuitous circumstances, but City have arguably been much better value for their lead. Leipzig have not really offered a shot on target. They certainly had a lot of endeavour in midfield, but defensively they've not been at the races. I will expect Marco Rose to make a few changes to the back four, maybe bring on Klosterman and Holstenberg for Raum and Heinrichs. Willi Orban has also been quite disappointing, really, as a leader. So it could very well be that there'll be some defensive changes made. Certainly in attack, Forsberg and Werner have not been short of endeavour themselves. And the midfielders certainly tried, but when it comes to the work of Jackie Grealish, Kevin De Bruyne, and certainly Erling Haaland, Ilkay Gundogan and company, Leipzig have just had no answer. And so it's half-time at the Etihad. It is, my bad. Let me just change the score line, make it proper. Cut me some slack. I'm not a professional. Manchester City 3, RB Leipzig 0. And so do Leipzig find a way back from this, or will it be a serene passage into the round of 8 for the defending Premiership champions? Let's take a look and see if there's any if there's been any goals in the Estadio de Dragão in Portugal. And no, there hasn't. I think there still should be a half-time already. Yep, it is half-time at the Estadio de Dragão in Portugal, and it is goalless there, with Inter Milan, of course, leading that tie 1-0, courtesy of Romelu Lukaku's goal at the San Siro. A former Chelsea striker, making news, making an impact, definitely. So, both Inter Milan and Manchester City are 45 minutes away from the quarterfinals. Porto is still very much in this. Leipzig have 45 minutes to come up with a miracle. And you would really not want to look beyond City going through to the quarterfinals. And just taking a look at the map over here, at times it sort of has transitioned into that 3-4-2-1 with Ake playing at right back at times and Kanji on the left with Ruben Diaz in the middle. You know, the thing about BBC Sports' formation maps is that sometimes, you know, they update and they sort of stay. I'm not too sure if you can really trust them, to be honest. It was Haidara, actually, who tried to clear that off the line, but Haaland was on the end of that. And so that will be that was a first half hat trick for Alfie Haaland. So, I mean, Erling Haaland, Alfie's son. So I will just update this. Right, so this is sort of how it's reflected. A first half Champions League hat trick for Erling Haaland, a penalty, and 2 poached goals, it must be said. But that is, of course, what Haaland was bought to do, and obviously willing to give credit to both Diaz and De Bruyne for their roles in those goals he scored. And the penalty, of course, Heinrichs will look back at that and still have real cause to feel hard done by. I do wonder what the BBC analysts will be saying about that goal. To me, it just didn't look as though it was a real clear handball, although Heinrichs did himself no favours with that rather stupid swing of his right hand. You do not want to do something like that. Well, apparently, the commentators and VAR have seen things differently to me. They say it did, in fact, brush his arm. And the ex-Manchester United and England striker Dion Dublin calling that decision very harsh indeed. And of course, since that penalty, Leipzig have just disintegrated defensively. Showing highlights, of course, from Chelsea beating Dortmund to seal their passage into the quarterfinals. But there will be a lot to talk about with obviously they're talking right now on the television about the goals, and I think I'm probably going to listen to what they have to say. Yeah, so from where I'm watching, the ex-Liverpool, Everton, and Scotland midfielder Don Hutchison called that very harsh indeed. It did, in fact, hit Heinrich's arm on, taking a look at that. So I do, in fact, stand corrected, but certainly a harsh decision. And he was trying to use his arms for leverage, but, you know, it's just unfortunate, really. And I do stand corrected in that maybe Heinrichs was, in fact, very definitely hard done by. I don't think I now realize that he probably didn't necessarily try to swing at that with his arm, but still, it is exceptionally unfortunate. And that was well played by Rodri, and Haaland scored that penalty, and the rest is history. And so a first half hat trick there with 2 poached goals apart from that penalty. But they are going to talk a little bit about this passage of play. So let me mute. Yeah, Hutchison once again talking about the incident where Edison rushed out and ended up clattering almost into Conrad Lehmer. Didn't exactly clatter into him per se, sort of skimmed the thigh, as it were. And certainly not a red card offence, but that should definitely have been a foul. And there is a question, of course, about that Grealish dive, whether or not he should have been booked. And certainly it looked an outrageous dive. We're going to take a look again. Grealish has so far had the measure of Heinrichs this game, but that clearly looked. It was either an attempt to take the mickey. That wasn't really a very theatrical fall, a very really theatrical fall. And I suppose that's probably what saved him from getting a book. Maybe the referee took into consideration that the conditions on the field with the players slipping, he probably felt as though he tripped over something and fell. But maybe a harsher referee would have booked Grealish for diving. I'm not too sure. We're going to take a look and see. And of course, confirmation that there have been no goals at the Estadio de Dragão. These have been the only 3 scored tonight. And of course, I'm bringing them to you and I'm watching them, having the benefit. And very soon we will be resuming play at the Etihad. And I do believe changes will be made by Marco Rosa. It was, of course, his quick, intuitive changes that brought about an improved Leipzig performance, which got them a very well-deserved draw in the first leg. Although you do feel now that with a first half Haaland hat-trick and the team not quite able to trouble Edison in goal, despite having a few good runs themselves, it could very well be auf Wiedersehen Leipzig. But we shall see. There have been stranger results. Take a look in the comments. JPT, the Out of Time podcast. Big up to you, brother. And I'm not too sure you care that much about City, but you'll have a lot to say about Erling Haaland and his first half hat trick. A penalty and 2 poached goals. Not very pretty by any means, but doesn't matter how you score them as long as you score them. His 5th hat trick in the season. Freak of nature. And to your question, well, here's the thing. I'm basically taking a look at this game right now and seeing City, falling short defensively. There have been times when, if they've been run at and if they've been put under pressure, they have, conceded the ball. They've had a few bad passes. The likes of Rodri and Ruben Diaz have been pretty big culprits in that regard. And Edison also has been quite shaky. There was an episode in that first half, an incident rather, where he, of course, skimmed Conrad Lehmer's thigh rather than actually clattering into him. That could have been it wasn't going to be a red card per se, but that should have been a foul given. And I just think that their defensive, shakiness or frailties, if you will, will mean that they probably won't win it this year. So if they don't win it this year, I think Guardiola will look back on the moment he decided to send João Cancelo out on loan and tell himself, you know what, I mucked up horribly. And of course, Guardiola does need the Champions League to sort of bookend a spell at City. Premiership trophies are sort of like a dime a dozen, if you will. A few domestic cups are nice, but doesn't quite compare to the glory of winning in Europe. Not by any stretch of the imagination. So I hope that answers your question. And I know you're probably at work now. I know it's daylight savings that has just begun this week. So actually, you might not be at work. It might be about 5 in the evening where you are. So if you're taking some rest, if you do get some time, if you want me to send you the link, we can certainly have a chat after the game. But if you're not free, don't worry about it. Just thank you for coming on and adding your thoughts. And so this is, of course, confirmation. Half-time, Manchester City leading Leipzig 3-0 thanks to an Erling Haaland first-half hat-trick. And, of course, we will be starting the second half a few minutes from now. Just waiting for the camera to take us back to the City of Manchester Stadium. And I am also keeping tabs on the other game at the Estadio de Real. I'm just about to take a look at some of the highlights, if there are any, from the Porto Inter game. Actually, there's no time for that because we've just come back to the City of Manchester Stadium. Leipzig will be kicking off and attacking from left to right, just like City did. And no changes in the first half for Leipzig as of yet. I will take a look and see if there have been any changes. No. And just kicked off. The ball is now back with Willi Orban in the Leipzig defense. He tries to send it forward, hoping to find Emil Forsberg, who passes it back to Dominik Szoboszlai, and Nathan Ake sort of cuts him off. That will be a Leipzig throw to be taken by Benjamin Heinrich. So, yeah, no changes from either side. 2 people from Leipzig, of course, have been booked. And, yeah, so no changes. And so Leipzig have started off with a much better shape, certainly being able to attack the ball a lot more and make sure that they get more of the ball. Haidara passing it back to Orban, sending it all the way across the field to David Raum, who started off having a decent game, but ended up committing a few fouls too many. Guardiola to Orban, to Heinrichs, back to Orban, and back to Blažević. And once again, a poor kick from Blažević. Very lucky that Bernardo Silva didn't control that at all well. So certainly an excellent shot stopper, but his kicking has been found wanting tonight. That is City now with the ball, this time on the right. Akanji now being almost guarded zealously by Forsberg. And City win the ball back. And once again, Leipzig are able to tidy up. Certainly a much better defensive shape. No misplaced passes as of yet. So it is with Raum, who passes it to Guardiola. Orban, the captain. Heinrichs. Orban. And Haaland once again snapping at Orban's heels, but concedes a throw. Heinrichs with the throw. Some of the Leipzig players wearing gloves. Got to protect your fingers. And Leipzig hoping to come away with that, but in the end, it's City who end up getting it, and it is Grealish on the left. And you can see that City will find it difficult to find a through pass, but Grealish does get a hold of that, and once again fancies his duel against Heinrichs. Ends up passing that all the way back to Ruben Diaz. Rodri. Akanji passing it back to Ederson. And that was not really the best kick, but it does find his teammate. And it is now with Erling Haaland. Ilkay Gundogan now in the centre. He finds Grealish on the left. The Leipzig defenders have sort of backed off a little bit. Gundogan can take a shot, and it's 4-0. And you just have to say that that is game over now. I've been saying a lot of things about Ilkay Gundogan not really being a striker, not being able to score. But this time around, after some really good work, he finds the net. And you do have to say that that really is game over now, because from 4-0 down, they just can't come back from this. All started from a pretty poor-looking pass, but you can see the huge spaces in the Leipzig midfield, Haaland in the centre doing the work. Some good interplay there. And Grealish was well onside. Finds Gundogan with the pass, twists Haidara, finds it low and true into the corner, past Blasvich's outstretched left hand. And, well, some pretty poor work there from Willy Orban and Gvardiol, who didn't really look to try and block that. In anything, it was Orban who sort of jumped out of the way. Jumped the heck out of the way. And with RB Leipzig now, the looks on their faces tell it all. It really is Auf Wiedersehen. 40 minutes, 4 goals to send it to extra time. The 4 away goals, tragically, will not send them through on the away goals rule, because the away goals rule is no longer applicable. City will throw, looking to take it as quickly as they can. And that finds the head of Rodri, who tries to set Gundogan free, but of course City are having to defend. And Ake is able to clear it up. Grealish on the left. Some good work there, trying to stave off Heinrichs again. It is back with Nathan Ake. Ruben Diaz. Ederson Moraes. And now Manuel Akanji, who will try and go forward with that. And he finds Haaland, who gets it to De Bruyne. And Rodri there with a pretty poor first touch, but he's able to prevent the Leipzig midfielders from nicking it off him. There's Nathan Ake, who finds Grealish on the left. Passes it back to Rodri. Gundogan in the middle. Stones is also in the middle, and he will look to try to feed it out to Kevin De Bruyne. Not Kevin De Bruyne, but... and very nearly an own goal there. It was, in fact, De Bruyne who sent that ball in, but Gvardiol again with the interception, a rather fortuitous interception. That was Bernardo Silva who had sent that pass through to Kevin De Bruyne. And Gvardiol again, very fortunate not to see that interception of his deflect that ball into the net for an own goal. That would really have rubbed salt into those wounds. De Bruyne with the corner, right-footed away swinger. And hoping for another header, but not quite getting it. But Grealish gets it to Gundogan, who passes it to Ake, who finds Bernardo Silva on the left. Silva gets it into the penalty area, and Lema concedes yet another corner. And you really do think that these next 40 or so minutes will just be a formality. And Well, so far, no substitutes for Leipzig, but City are making a couple. It looks as though it'll be Riyad Mahrez and Phil Foden who'll be coming on. But another corner. Headed back into the penalty area, and it just had to be. This is getting really, really ridiculous. Four goals for Erling Haaland. Some appalling Leipzig defending from a set piece from a corner. And once again, they've been made to pay. Bernardo sending it back in. Great save from Blažević from the earlier header from Haaland. A bullet header, really. Good right hand, only finding Akanji. And Blažević again clawing that away. But Haaland saying, sorry, Giannis, but your third time will not be your charm. On his strong left foot, straight into the corner. Guardiola approves. And that's 4 goals for Erling Haaland. And that, you feel, will be tie over. And now the substitution can be made. It will be Ilkay Gundogan and Jackie Grealish who are coming off to be replaced by Phil Foden and Riyad Mahrez, respectively. So, yeah, it's Foden on for Grealish and Mahrez on for Gundogan. Grealish has had a good game. Not scored, but definitely made a nuisance of himself. Completely skinned Benjamin Heinrichs all the way to Sunday on many occasions. And Foden coming on will probably, add more to the agony, you would imagine. And Gundogan, having scored a goal and done some really good work in the midfield, will be given a rest. And Riyad Mahrez can come on and maybe continue with his magic. No substitutions for Leipzig. Maybe Marco Reus wants to keep the players on, let them experience a further humbling, and then engage in some damage limitation. And once again, Haaland making a nuisance of himself, running at Blažević and not able to. Well, certainly Blažević wasn't able to try to get that away, but eventually Leipzig do have the ball. And Haaland is having an absolute barnstormer of a game right now. It is with Foden, the substitute. And I think we'll have to ask him why he chose number 47 to wear. Not a very attractive number for me personally, but some great skill there from Riyad Mahrez, who's come on. Certainly a very dynamic midfielder by himself. Another header at goal. And, no sooner did Mahrez come on that he decided he wanted to get in on the act when it came to scoring goals. But case of possible offside there. The linesman deciding otherwise. And certainly a nice bullet header there at Blažević's near post, but the Leipzig goalkeeper making himself big and saying, not tonight, Riyad. But the same old story. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. And that's his fifth. His fifth. Leipzig just cannot defend from a corner. This is ridiculous. And this time it's with his right foot. Absolutely taking the mickey. And basically, Blaswich once again pushing it out into the danger area. No Leipzig defender is able to, get a hold of that. 5-star performance from the number 9. He's had 8 attempts, 8 of them on target. 5 of them have been goals. Does he stay on and get a double hat-trick? 6-0 on the night, 7-1 on aggregate. I'm tempted to end this stream here, but I know I just can't. Leipzig have been absolutely taken to the cleaners. And the worst part is that with half an hour to go, there could be more. But a poor giveaway there, intercepted by Shabozlai. But clearly, clearly shell-shocked by conceding 6. That attempt sums it up. And some of the Leipzig fans are deciding, what, they've seen enough. Most of them, credit to them, are staying on till the bitter end. But, it is never nice to travel all the way with high hopes only to see your team ripped apart like this. But when you've got a guy like Erling Haaland in such a mood, there really is nothing you can do. Rodri. Akanji. Ruben Diaz. Rodri again. Nathan Ake. Bernardo Silva. Nathan Ake. Back to Diaz. Akanji. Rodri. And you can see the City players are now starting to absolutely take the mickey out of Leipzig. It's sort of a kickabout now, passing it amongst one another. And we are coming up to the hour mark in the game. 60 minutes gone. It is 6-0. I kid you not. And could there be more? De Bruyne released down the right, keeps the ball in play, but headed into the penalty area, and Willy Orban says, no goal this time. But it will be a City throw. And clearly, we will not see the last of Erling Haaland, although I think you could see in his eyes he wants a 6th goal. He wants that moment of history. And I think I will have to check BBC Sport to find out if he has the record for the most goals scored in a single Champions League game by one player. It is Phil Foden who passes it back to Nathan Ake. Ruben Diaz. Manuel Akanji. Diaz again. Rodri sending it forward, but Akanji isn't able to get to that. That is headed away by David Raum. And Leipzig can try and break. Kevin Campbell there trying to start something, but seeing that ended. And that will be a City throw-in. Clearly, the Leipzig players are not too happy with that decision. More substitutions, and bad news for Erling Haaland is that in all likelihood he will not get the chance to score a historic 6th goal. It looks as though he will be brought off. But actually, it's the Leipzig team that are going to make some changes first. It will be Timo Werner to come off for use of Poulsen. And Emil Forsberg will be coming off for Mohamed Simakan. And Amadou Haidara will be coming off. And it looks like Andre Silva's coming on. And now City substitutions, and it is Erling Haaland who will be coming off to a huge ovation from the City crowd. No double hat-trick for the number 9, but 5 goals is certainly not small potatoes. Everyone applauding him. The Leipzig players are just standing there with their hands on their hips. They know they've been ripped apart today by one man, and he will be replaced by the World Cup winner, Julian Alvarez. And it will be Sergio Gomez who will replace John Stones in the defense. Stones, of course, started the night as right back, and he's sort of come into the centre. And we have the England international Calvin Phillips on. I wonder who Phillips has replaced. He's replaced Rodri. So, no call up for Kyle Walker, who'll still be on the bench, but those three changes should either slow the game down nicely, or maybe it'll fortify City a little bit more, and maybe they'll score a couple more. We'll have to see. Yep, confirmation of that other substitution. Calvin Phillips has indeed replaced Rodri, and some great running from De Bruyne once again, hoping to get across into the penalty area, but Blažević saying no. And it is in fact Andre Silva who replaced Forsberg, and Simakan has replaced Haidara. Use of Poulsen replacing Timo Werner. Confirmation of those substitutions. Phillips, Bernardo, and it'll be a City throw. And we got some comments already. Villa TV, big up to you. Chris Mossing with some wonderful statements. Big up to you. I know daylight savings time has begun for you in your neck of the woods as well. Need an FC Porto goal in overtime. Eustáquio, legend, can move on to the next round. Canadians. Well, I'm sure with Alphonso Davies working his magic for Bayern, that could be good enough. Bayern, of course, are through to the next round at the expense of Paris Saint-Germain, but certainly another Canadian would be quite nice for you, I would imagine. One Soccer doing a show on Tajon Buchanan, wanted by Inter Milan, and they're planning on selling Denzel Dumfries, and on Jonathan David now being worth 100 million euros, and we see that infamous City Poznan-style wall taking place. Certainly a jump up. Come on, FC Porto. Yeah, I mean, what can I say? The Canucks are on the up. Foden now doing some really good work, passing it to Phillips, who sends it to Bernardo Silva on the left. It is back with Foden. Bernardo. Nathan Ake. Ruben Diaz. Manuel Akanji. Kevin De Bruyne, who's still on the field, still on the right. And that is Riyad Mahrez now. And some great work there from De Bruyne. And I think the referee, well, clearly De Bruyne is not happy. He believes he was impeded, but I think the referee, yeah, one thing you should never ever do is talk back to a referee. De Bruyne, who's been given the captain's armband with Gundogan going off, has just been booked for dissent. Thinking that he should have been given a free kick, but the referee saying no. And we are coming up to the 3-quarter mark in the game. It is, of course, 6-0, and Leipzig definitely have no way back here, barring, of course, the most spectacular of implosions by Manchester City. City, of course, runners-up in the 2021 Champions League final to the Chelsea team that was then managed by Thomas Tuchel. Still believing they can go one better, but they will certainly face even better opposition in the next round. And that was a poor piece of play there by Alvarez, who sent that ball out for a Leipzig throw-in. Lehmann now trying to play it forward. Andre Silva, who's come onto the field now, hoping to make something happen. And he wins a free kick. And you can see the look. I think Rosa knows that his team have just been ripped to shreds. They've run into a buzzsaw, a Norwegian buzzsaw by the name of Erling Haaland. But, most of the team have really played quite well. I think question marks can still be asked about the likes of Ruben Diaz and certainly Edison, who has looked shaky on more than a few occasions. But offensively, this is as perfect as you could get. No doubt about it. The joy of 6, pun intended. Throw in is short from Sergio to Bernardo. Foden, back to Sergio Gomez, who sends it all the way back. And it is now with Ruben Diaz, who is still on the field. Nathan Ake, back to Diaz. And it looks as though Akanji is the one who's sort of slotted into that right-back position now to try and tighten things up a little bit. And so with Stones having gone off, Sergio Gomez has come in and certainly looking to try and play the ball forward. Bernardo's had a more than decent game. Not quite been involved with much of the action, though. And you could see the tiredness and the frustration. The frustration's long since crept in. The tiredness is starting to come in too. I think the Leipzig players have pretty much given up the ghost and just want this game to be over in the next 20 or so minutes. It is still goalless at the Estadio de Dragao. I know that, yeah. And of course, with that 5th goal tonight, Erling Haaland has become Manchester City's top goal scorer in a season, passing Tommy Johnson's 38 in 1928-29. And City once again trying to go forward through Diaz, who finds Akanji on the right. Mahrez has come up on the wing, but instead it's with... now it's gone all the way to Foden on the left, and Foden trying to pick up where Grealish left off. Sergio Gomez. Bernardo Silva. Silva trying to send that in, but no silver lining for Bernardo there. It is back with City through Gomez. Foden. De Bruyne. And Calvin Phillips, of course, with his unique hairstyle. Not quite the Jason Lee style pineapple. Many older football fans will remember that. And Foden has been sent on his way. He's in the penalty area, but sort of almost attempted Rabiot there. Not a Rabiot or Rabona. That's what I'm looking for. That's the word. Not quite pulling it off. But once again, City still in the Leipzig half. Still looking to cause some trouble. Adding some more gloss to a scoreline, maybe. Not quite the cricket score that Martin Keown imagines it to be. And did Foden keep that in? No, he was ruled to have just dragged it outside. Another substitution for Leipzig. It will be the number 7, Danny Olmo, to come on. And it looks as though he will be replacing number 17, Szoboszlai, who certainly had a good game, making some really good runs. But I think it's fair to say that, like his teammates, he's just been overwhelmed, overawed by the result. And 18 minutes to go, plus stoppages. You really can't see a way back. I mean, this tie was really lost when Haaland got his 4th. Gundogan and Haaland adding to the score once again. Just you really think that it's just a question of taking the mickey, really. It's almost unfair. And so all Leipzig can do now is just, well, this might look promising. Olmo, who's come on, very nearly made things happen there. And a rushed back pass from Akanji to Edison, who's had to, send it out. Sort of cleared the danger somewhat. And once again, play is still continuing, and that's going to be a foul on the number 7, Olmo. And you can see the City players know that their passage to the quarterfinals is all but secured. They can afford a laugh and a joke. I'm sure they do not want to concede any goals. Total attempts, 12-1 for City in the first half, 7-1 in the second half, 19-2 overall. Tells the story. It really does. Calvin Phillips passing it all the way back to Edison. And Sergio Gomez now doing some excellent work, taking it past Olmo. And Olmo is deemed to have fouled Sergio Gomez in the process, and that will be a City free kick. 16 minutes to go, plus stoppages. Diaz. Akanji. Back to Diaz. Back to Akanji. Certainly getting the better of Konrad Laimer there, doing it quite well. And Calvin Phillips cleaning up. Phillips hasn't had an easy time of it, the former Leeds midfielder. Injured almost immediately after arriving at City, and was in many ways a very, very fortunate selection for Gareth Southgate's squad for the World Cup, although he saw his place in midfield taken by Jordan Henderson. Diaz, Akanji. Diaz. Back to Edison. It certainly would be a shame if City were to concede, and they almost did there with another wayward pass from Edison meant for Diaz, but that was cleaned up. Sergio Gomez can now take the ball and start running. Ends up finding Kevin De Bruyne. Nathan Ake now. Back to De Bruyne. Phillips. Sergio, back to Phillips. Sends it all the way out to Akanji on the right. Mahrez back to Akanji. Diaz. Ake. And some very neat interplay there between him and Sergio Gomez. It is now with Riyad Mahrez on the right. Mahrez again. It is with Phillips now. And Leipzig can now try and break away, maybe score a consolation. Olmo, the substitute. And Akanji did get the ball first, but a rather too aggressive of a tackle, and that will be punished with a free kick. Actually, he didn't get the ball. One-footed lunge. You can't make those sort of tackles. And the Swiss defender there getting into the book. Oh, man. We've got a comment. Still 0-0 at the Estadio de Dragao. Still hopeful. We'll see what happens. And so it's a good free kick, and it looks as though Olmo might be the one to take that. He is, of course, the one who's won it, but Raum is also standing over it. He can try and whip it inside. It is Olmo who sends it into the penalty area. It is headed back in by Simakan. but the defense clears it away. David Raum, Konrad Lehmer will pass it back to Blažević, who certainly, I wouldn't say he's been to blame for any of the goals, but hasn't really had the best performance tonight. Campbell, and Simakan just fails to keep that in, and that will be a City throw. Phillips, Akanji, Diaz, Edison, Ake. Bernardo Silva's come running back, and he gets it from Ake. Passes it back to Edison. And this could be trouble for City, but the defense holds firm. And this could very well be where City might lose the Champions League, because defensively they're still quite a shambles. And a shot taken there by the number 19, Andre Silva. Certainly no silver lining there, but that was not a bad attempt by any means. Maybe with a little bit more curl, that could have beaten Edison and gone into the back of the net. But and so Heinrichs, who has endured a difficult game, is replaced by Lucas Klosterman, who started the game at right back in the first leg, only to be replaced by Heinrichs at half-time. Nathan Ake. Diaz. Akanji. And that is Riyad Mahrez, who does some really good work with his, turning, basically twisting Guardiola again. Not quite like Messi did, but certainly effective. Phillips. Akanji. Let me see if there's another comment. Oh, Nana, what a save. Oh, Nana. I'm sorry, I had to do that. And I know that Chris is still hoping for a Porto goal, but Onana there proving his worth there. Didn't have the best World Cup with Cameroon. Sent home after the first game and replaced by Davis Apassi. But you feel as though things will get resolved between him and the Cameroon Football Association very soon. For the moment now, it's back to this game, and City is still almost playing keep ball, except they are trying to find a way forward, and if they can score a 7th goal on the night, I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't want to get overshadowed by Liverpool smashing 7 past Manchester United in the Premiership, but again, different kettle of fish. And once again, some very poor defensive play. And a corner won by Julian Alvarez off Willy Orban once again. And that will be yet another City corner. There's no Erling Haaland. There is a Manuel Akanji, a Julian Alvarez, a Ruben Diaz, a Nathan Ake, and a Calvin Phillips. And there is a Kevin De Bruyne who takes it short all the way to Mahrez, who gets it to Sergio Gomez, sort of around that wall. It is Bernardo Silva now who sends it back into the penalty area. Akanji rising and heading, but in the end, the header didn't really have that much in terms of pace and speed to trouble Blažević in the Leipzig goal. Coming up to 8 minutes left, plus stoppages. Klosterman, Simakan, back to Klosterman. And Simakan eventually winning a throw off the head of Bernardo Silva. Campbell, Simakan, Klosterman, Campbell, pass back to Blažević. And Gvardiol's been dispossessed, but the first touch by Mahrez was a little heavy there. And I think even he started to feel the strain of seeing his team conceding 6. Never nice. But Leipzig are now on the break. Andre Silva down the right, and unfortunately he slipped, and Nathan Ake is able to clear that. It is Alvarez now. And Riyad Mahrez doing brilliantly to keep the ball in on the right. Twisting the defender again, David Raum, and winning a corner. So there's no let-up. And on this form, Arsenal fans, if you're watching, you better watch out, because this offence will not let their grip on the Premiership title loosen without a damn good fight. And it'll probably still be Kevin De Bruyne with that. No, it's left-footed, so... And that was swinging in. I wonder who took that corner. Could very well have been Calvin Phillips who took it from the looks of things. And actually, that was Riyad Mahrez who took that, and there's a Leipzig player down the penalty area. And looks as though it's David Raum there. Basically colliding with his goalkeeper and coming off the worst. And this will add to the minutes to be added on at the end of the game. And, you know, it's starting to peter out a little bit in a way, especially in comparison to what's happened in the minutes before. I will briefly switch my television to the Porto Inter Milan game, and still no goals there. Diogo Costa, the Poland goalkeeper, in my opinion, to blame for Yusuf En-Nesyri's winner past him in the quarter-final. And could we see a Porto goal here? Nope. Andre Onana smothers that at his near post. But back to the Etihad Stadium. Into the last 5 minutes. I'm sure I didn't miss too much in terms of action. It's still 6-0, 7-1 on aggregate. There is David Raum, who was clattered into by Blažević. He's able to get up and shake it off. Probably a good sign that Guardiola took Haaland off, because he didn't want to get too greedy. A double hat-trick would have suited him just fine, but... And Raum is really not feeling too well, sort of being taken off the field. I do wonder if there is a substitution plan for him, but we will have to see. And at the moment, it is Blažević. And Raum is back and running. None the worse for wear. And we are into the last 3.5 minutes. A huge kick from Blažević into the City penalty area, but the defense clear their lines. It is with Simakan now. Klosterman. Simakan. And Sergio Gomez there with a rather unorthodox back pass to Ederson. Last 3 minutes. 6 unanswered goals. There will be more minutes for stoppage time being added on. I really need to go to sleep, but I'm staying until the bitter end. If it's any consolation, I think just given the way this tie has played out, and the way that'll be a City throw, and the way the City have played, I'm not going to say that they're favourites for the Champions League because defences are what really will help you sustain a challenge. And so there is a lot of defensive work that has to be done. And as I say, that City, in fact, do give the ball away. It was with Olmo who tried to make something happen. It is with Orban now. Now back with Leipzig through Orban. Alvarez sort of trying to snap at their heels, but Julian Alvarez is no Erling Haaland. World Cup or no World Cup. David Ram trying to play it forward. And that is played forward all the way to Olmo, who controls the ball very well. Hoping to find, well, I think that was Konrad Lehmer who was trying to run down the left, but the defense said no way. Back with Blažević now, who sends that forward. Coming up to the last minute of the game. 5 goals for Erling Haaland. 1 goal for Ilkay Gundogan. 6-0 Manchester City. Well home and well dry. Ake. De Bruyne. Sergio Gomez. And City continue to sort of keep the ball amongst themselves. Phillips to Ake. Back to Phillips from Diaz. Akanji. Sergio Gomez. Hoping to release Julian Alvarez, and he does. And Alvarez is being sort of held back fairly by Willie Orban, according to the referee. And Leipzig can now clear their lines. Raum tries to send it forward, but Yusuf Poulsen isn't able to take it forward. And there's with Kevin De Bruyne now, who was perhaps unfortunate not to have scored that second goal. And in the penalty area now, but Dortmund clear their lines. Olmo. And now it is Simakan. Simakan thread a decent through pass, but nobody on the end to. You can see that the brain stimulus is starting to fail me, but we now have 2 minutes of added on time, which could very well be a case of just, perform the last rites, sign the treaty, it's all over. And it is De Bruyne now, and he rounds it off in style, and it is the 7th goal for Manchester City. He certainly deserved a goal, in my opinion, for that beautiful shot that turned out to be an assist for Erling Haaland. Second, and in the second minute of injury time, it is Manchester City 7, RB Leipzig 0, 8-1 on aggregate. Excellent work from Riyad Mahrez down the right to try and sort of basically taking Guardiola away from him. De Bruyne giving himself room, enough chance to shoot. Beautifully placed. Blažević had no chance. He was never going to get there. And could this be the way the match ends? I think it's fair to say that it is, in fact, the way it ends. And so full time at the City of Manchester Stadium, the Etihad Stadium. It is Manchester City 7, RB Leipzig 0. All the plaudits will go to Erling Haaland for his 5 goals. In fact, I will sort of, outline them right now. 24. 45 plus 2, 3, and 57. The captain for the night, Ilkay Gundogan, on the 49th minute. And finally, Kevin De Bruyne with an absolute peach to round it off with a ribbon and a rosette, sort of saying to Liverpool that anything you can do, we can do just as well as you. The difference is you might have Mohamed Salah, we've got Erling Haaland. 5 goals for him. He takes the plaudits. No double hat trick for him, sadly, but you assume that he will get it someday. Ilkay Gundogan contributing with a captain's performance in the middle of the field and a goal himself. And then Kevin De Bruyne also capping his display with a goal at the very end. 2 stoppage time goals, one in the first half, one in the second. Leipzig just ran into an absolute buzzsaw today, it has to be said. And I'm now going to go back to the San Siro to find out if the match is over. And a little treat for you, there are in fact 7 minutes of added time, and we are into the 3rd minute. So I am going to give you a special treat. I will stay here for the conclusion of the game here, because of course Porto need to try to score a goal to take it to injury time, and an acrobatic effort there from the Porto attacker in the penalty area, but that was going wide. That was never going to trouble Andre Onana. So this is, of course, the main story, but we will now focus on the second half of the remainder of this game. It should really only be a few minutes, unless, of course, Porto find an equaliser or maybe even get a winner. But if Inter do score another goal, you do think that that will be that. And it is Diogo Costa, the Portugal goalkeeper, trying to send it long, but intercepted by Henrik Mkhitaryan, former Manchester United and Arsenal midfielder, of course, unfairly by the referee, and so Portugal will take the free kick. They've got about 3 extra minutes of stoppage time after this one, so there is still hope. But you could say definitely that they've acquitted themselves superbly in denying Inter Milan any chance to really add to their lead. But at the end of the day, they've got to score themselves. And let me go right now to the well, some huge action there in the Inter Milan penalty area, and I will just bring that to you right now. You can't take your eyes off the TV screen for 1 minute, seriously. Yep. Some great work there by Porto. A nice ball into the penalty area. And the shot there cleared off the line, not by Onana, but by an Inter Milan defender. Onana certainly impressed ever since he's joined Inter and has now seen the long-time number 1 hit Handanovic on the bench, and Porto hit the post. Wow, it's all happening out there at the Estadio de Dragão. Again! Off the bar. And the referee claiming that there was a handball by someone on the Portuguese team, and there are just rueful laughs going on over there. But we're going to see this passage of play right now. Well saved by Andre Onana. Or was that off the post? Well, it was Onana who sort of pushed that onto the post, really. Second header. This time Onana beaten. But off the top of the bar and away. And you can see the Porto players telling themselves so close and yet so far. Coming up to the last minute of stoppage time at the Estadio de Dragão. It is still Portugal 0, Porto 0, Inter Milan 0. Inter Milan, of course, were Champions League winners under the former Porto manager, Jose Mourinho, in 2010 as part of their treble, denying Bayern Munich their chance of a historic treble under Louis van Gaal, who, like Mourinho, also managed Manchester United. And a yellow card there for the Porto coach, Sergio Conceição, means that he will miss the next match. But of course, with 20 seconds to go, it could very well be over and done with. And looks as though Pepe has been shown his marching orders, given his marching orders there. Not too sure what was going on, but we're going to find out. Yep, a second yellow card for Pepe, and he has been sent off. And this could very well be a heartbreaking ending indeed for Porto, because it is an Inter Milan free kick. Conceição telling his players to just try and defend and see if you can take it further. It is Lukaku who has the ball, and he'll try to, waste time with it, and that will be an Inter Milan throw. And the referee still hasn't blown his whistle yet. D'Ambrosio for Inter Milan with the throw. And that, I do believe, is that. Full time at the Estadio de Dragão. No goals in this game, but no shortage of drama. And it was just a pity that obviously with City playing today, that had to take preference. And obviously I'm glad that I watched that because of those 7 goals. But an embrace there between the Belgian Lukaku and the Cameroonian Onana. Respect shown between the Porto and Inter players. Inter winning this tie 1-0 on aggregate and going through to the quarterfinals themselves. And the other match, of course, saw City enter 7th heaven, with 5 of those 7 for a certain Erling Haaland. And so the headline here is prepared. Manchester City and Inter Milan have both qualified for the quarterfinals. Tomorrow, of course, will be the last 2 matches in the round of 16, the last 2 second leg ties, that is. And following that, there will be the draw. And it'll be interesting to see what sort of draw will be taking place. Tomorrow's game between Liverpool and Real Madrid is definitely a must-see. Certainly, Liverpool fans will be praying for a miracle at the Bernabeu. Certainly, in all likelihood, you can't expect any kind of a result in Liverpool's favour, but football is a funny, crazy old game, isn't it? And those games obviously will be the focus for tomorrow, and we will find out when they will be taking place. And the other tie, of course, sees the Italian Serie A leaders Napoli hoping to complete the formalities of their round of 16 tie against the Europa League winners, Eintracht Frankfurt. They lead 2-0 on aggregate, and certainly will be hoping to try to conclude the formalities at back in Naples. But Real Madrid versus Liverpool at the Bernabeu will certainly be the tie to watch. And if possible, we will be bringing that to you on the Coach's Corner tomorrow. But until then, this is what has happened. Porto and Inter Milan drew 0-0 at the Estadio di Dragao, but Inter Milan went through 1-0 on aggregate, courtesy of Romelu Lukaku's goal at the San Siro. And despite drawing with RB Leipzig at the Red Bull Arena, Manchester City completed the formalities in some style, thrashing Leipzig 7-0. 5 goals for Erling Haaland's son Erling. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A goal for the skipper on the day, Ilkay Gundogan, and a stoppage time goal at the end of the game for the replacement captain, Kevin De Bruyne. Ripped to shreds were the Germans, and their Champions League journey is now over. For City, they move on. And although questions will still be asked of their defence, certainly with this type of an offence, you do not want to cross paths with them. And so if this is the way they're going to play in the Premiership, Arsenal and other teams had better watch out. And this is how we will end it. Manchester City and Milan have qualified for the quarterfinals. And tomorrow will be the conclusion of the round of 16 stage. So shout out to everyone who's joined in. Shout out to JPT, the Added Time podcast. Thanks for coming on. Shout out to Villa TV. Shout out, of course, to my good friend Chris Mossing, all the way from Saskatoon in Saskatchewan in Canada. Hoping for a Porto miracle, but sadly didn't get it. But in the words of the unforgettable song by Sarah Lois Vaughan, well, maybe next year. And on that note, I say thanks to all of you. Thanks a lot for coming on. And all I will say is I will hope to join you tomorrow. But until then, I hope you all take care of yourselves. Stay safe. Enjoy the football. Enjoy the rest of your week. Don't do anything that I certainly wouldn't do, or Hannah wouldn't do. But for now, it is time for me to bid you from the Coach's Corner, adieu.